Jean-François, welcome back.
Well, glad to be here.
Let me start with what happened over the weekend at the PQ meeting, convention, whatever we're going to call it there, where Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, who's been generating a lot of attention lately, went up, I think, at one point and said, don't worry, in an independent Quebec, everything will be fine. There won't be any hardship necessarily at the beginning, although he said you might have to, I'm going to use the word as I understood it in English, volunteer. But it seems to me this is exactly in contrast to what Pauline Marois had said back in 2012, 2014, when she said there would be hardships. So which is it? What do you think? What's the message here?
Well, we just don't know because it's in the future. You know, as I wrote in Le Devoir this Saturday, had we known in the referendum in 1980 when they told us that the Quebec currency would drop to 75 cents US, had we known that staying in Canada, it would drop to 62 cents US, we would have left. So we just don't know what kinds of hardship are in front of us if we stay or if we leave. But what Madame Marois said is that there would be 5 years of turbulences. That's air pockets when you fly. And then this weekend he said, well, maybe I said 5 years, but I should have said 2 or 3 years. What Plamondon said is that there's going to be a lot of work to be done. It's going to be a big challenge, but there's going to be, on the people who voted yes, certainly, a great sense of effervescence and intensity, and people will even be willing to work for free to make this happen. Now, I never said that. I'm sure it might be true in the first few months, but people have to live. And so I'm going to give you an anecdote from my time as an advisor to Jacques Parizeau. So it was during the referendum of 1995. I was doing a lot of test groups, focus groups, and people were always asking, how much will it cost to become sovereign? How much will it cost? And of course, federalist economists said it would be dire. Sovereignist economists said it would be fine. So there's no real number, And I said, at some point, just put $19.95 per year for 5 years on billboards, and people will be glad. But there was a sense of even, undecided and people who voted yes, that it would be, there would be a tough transition. That this would not be easy. The question was, is it worth it? And I was bringing that back to Jacques Parizeau, who never said that it would be hard. And I said, it's not credible to say that it will not be hard. It would be more credible to say, it's going to be a few years, that it's going to be hard, but then it's worth it. And he said, why should I say this? Because as an economist, I do not know. It will depend on the conjoncture. It will depend on the quality of our decisions. If we're smart, it's going to be easy. If we're dumb, it's going to be hard. And so why should I even say anything about this? Because there's no certainty. So we're still in the same debate.
I wonder what it's like for you to observe this from your very specific and unique perspective, to see François Legault, former PECist, debate with Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon over the merits and the detriments of an independent Quebec.
Well, my Federalist friends are appalled to have François Legault as a spokesperson. The worst one you can have.
Yeah, that's true.
And they would much rather have Jean Charest or even Jean Chrétien, and I feel for them. I really feel for them. But what happened in the last 10 days, even though I was off, I still had an eye on that, is that at first, François Legault used the equalization payment argument. So when PSPP will come with his budget, where will be the whole of 13 billion a year? And so he comes with the budget and says, listen, first, it's not 13 billion, it's 9 billion because it's a common pot. And we, Quebec, give 4 billion in its pot. So at the net, it's 9. And if I take all the money we send as taxpayers to Ottawa and I only save 5% of that money, it just washes out the 9 billion, and that's it. Okay, and then Mr. Legault came back and said, well, there's no debate that it's viable economically and financially. It's viable, but what are the costs of transition? And just the fact that the debate moved from equalization, which was, the best federalist argument, to transition, is a plus for the PQ, for this debate.
So is this, Jean-François, a losing strategy? So you put yourself in PSPP's sort of position, right? 4 sitting members in the National Assembly, getting a lot of press lately. François Legault takes the bait, feels he has to come out and, contend some of the points being brought up. This is a losing strategy for François Legault to stay involved in something like this?
Yes, it is, because the electoral issue here is where the CAQ, the electorate, is, for at least half of it, former PQ voters. So former PQ voters who were tired of the debate or lost faith and said, let's try something else. But they've tried something else for 8 years, and now they're seeing that their old flame is back. And so they're wondering, well, maybe we should go back to our old flame. And that's what we've seen in the last, in Jean Talon, that's what we saw in the last polls. We'll see in the next polls if this trend continues. But Legault has to keep his federalist electorate that he stole from the Liberal Party and the sovereigntist electorate that he stole from the PQ. And that's a very hard thing to do.
I think we should highlight here that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon has promised us all that we will have a national Quebec hockey team, so that's something to celebrate. And I'm going to use that to segue into François Legault being on thin ice these days. It's like Strike City. Have you ever seen this, Jean-François, where you've got so many public sector workers saying, no, we've had enough and we're walking out?
40 years ago. That's how much time it took between two Front Commun gearing up for a strike, with 95% of their members asking for the strike. And I think Legault set this up in such a transparent way. You give 30% raise to MNAs and ministers. You offer 21% to policemen, and they say it's not enough. And then you turn to your main body of people working for you and says, for you, it's only going to be 10%, or let's say 15 if I put a $1,000 lump sum in it. I said, who would sign that? Who would say yes? And it's not sure if it's going to match inflation over the 5-year period that encompasses the last 2 years. It's not sure.
Yeah.
So who would sign a 5-year contract where you're not even sure that you will meet inflation when your employer has been more generous with others just in the last months? It couldn't be worse.
It's a pathetic offer.
This is look, they're planning to go on strike unless something changes dramatically in the next few days by November 5th. I mean, that's almost 500,000 people represented here by the Common Front.
They won't do all at the same time.
No.
And you know that we have very strict essential services rules now for health that are very, very strongly binding. And I'm glad they do exist. We adapted to them. But a strike is a strike. And for parents in particular, it's going to be complicated. We know the parents support their teachers, but then winter will come, and the 6th day and the 7th day and the 8th day, it's going to be harsher. I don't understand why the government didn't say, listen, we will guarantee inflation, and we're putting a little more on the table, but only if you agree to changes in work conditions, organization of work. It would have taken the salary issue off, the table. Now, because it's still front and center, we don't have progress on the other items because people just won't listen if you don't guarantee that their paychecks will not be diminished by inflation.
Understood, at least for us anyway. Jean-François, merci. We'll talk to you on Wednesday afternoon.
Merci.
Thank you.